We are just a few weeks away from week one of the NFL regular season, which means that fantasy drafts are going to be happening all across America. And us here at VinConn Sports Talk are here to help you guys out in your upcoming fantasy football drafts as we continue our positional rankings for the 2025 NFL season. So, welcome back to VinConn Sports Talk. This is episode number 44. My name is Vinny. My partner is my good friend, Mr. Connor Swanson, here today to talk about the wide receiver position, arguably the most important position in fantasy football, the deepest position, and in my opinion, the most fun position in fantasy football. I've said position like 8 times. It doesn't even sound like a word anymore. Connor, why don't you start talking? Um, so we're talking wide receivers today. Are you excited?
I'm excited, man, and don't get me wrong. It's so exciting that sometimes you just start talking, and I've done it multiple
You
times
start
here
rambling.
on the podcast. You
Yeah,
just get so excited, you get into it, and you start saying things. You're like, "What am I doing? I got to stop talking." But hey,
yeah,
wide receivers, you said it. Very exciting position, very intriguing position. A lot of big names to talk about, and most importantly, a lot of depth. So these guys that we're gonna have towards the bottom of our rankings here at 15. Those are guys you still want on your fantasy team, right? By no means
100%.
are they bad players. You're going to want them. So this is an exciting time. Preseason week one is just about finishing up as we're recording this, and it was a good preseason week one. All that means is one less week until the actual season begins, and that's what I'm most looking forward to here. But Vinny, what do you say we hop right into these rankings and start out with our number 15?
Yeah, let's rank these. But right before we get started, just wanted to say so. This is a top 15 list. We're basing it off of PPR scoring format, so 1 point per reception, and then the standard 4 points per passing touchdown, 6 points for receiving touchdown. And like you said, we have a couple weeks until the regular season gets underway. There could still be injuries, there could still be team changes, there could still be a ton of stuff that happens. So these rankings are subject to change. But let's get this thing started. Connor, why don't you lead us off with your 15th ranked wide receiver in fantasy?
Yeah, so my 15th ranked wide receiver is a guy who should be the clear wide receiver one on his team. He's a guy that he's having a new quarterback come over and play. He's having another veteran receiver added to the receiving core, but he had his other receiver leave a year ago. It's the Seattle Seahawks wide receiver Jackson Smith and Jigba, JSN. That's what he goes by. Big nickname there. Love that nickname. But yeah, he had 1,100 yards a season ago, 100 receptions. He finished as the wide receiver 9. I feel like a lot of people think of him as just kind of a middle of the pack guy, which is of course where we have him ranked. So I can't say much about that, but he flies under the radar a little bit. He's kind of that slot receiver. He's going to see a ton of targets, ton of catches, and I don't think that's going to change a whole ton, even with Cooper Cup coming over. Sam Darnold coming over at quarterback from the Minnesota Vikings. I hope, for fantasy owner's sake and for his sake, that Sam Darnold performs at the same level we saw a year ago. And I think he will. So that's why I have him ranked here at 15. And I think it's a pretty accurate spot for him.
Yeah, I actually agree perfectly the same as you. As we want to reveal, my number 15 is also JSN, the clear cut wide receiver one of the Seattle Seahawks. A lot of changes in Seattle this year. New quarterback, a new
Yep.
wide receiver on the other side of the ball lined up, Cooper Cup. But I don't think that's going to affect JSN too much. It might even make him better. He is a very reliable guy. I think his floor is extremely high. He's going to get a lot of targets. He wasn't very touchdown dependent last year, which is a good thing.
Yep.
And in an offense that should be able to produce a decent amount, and I think JSN is a guy who I'm going to be targeting for a wide receiver two on your team, or maybe even a wide receiver one if you're
Yep.
going more of a running back first approach on your fantasy team. He is a great option. And like we said before, this is a top 15 list, but in a 12-man league, you're going to have 24 wide receivers,
Yeah.
at least rostered. So all 15 of these guys are guys you want to target on your
Yeah.
team. Let's just put that
100%.
out there first. So,
100%.
love JSN this year. Think he's only going to get better. And clearly, our lists, great minds think alike for the start of our list. We'll see if that continues today. So, why don't we
Yeah.
keep
So
rolling here?
moving on to number 14 for me, it's going to be a guy plays on the New York Jets. He's the clear wide receiver there. Garrett Wilson, right? No competition for targets, if we're being realistic. He's the only guy there. Alan Lazard taking targets, no way, not without Rodgers. This is a guy who he's going to carry his team. I mean, if he doesn't get the ball, this team is not moving the ball down the field very often. I mean, Justin Fields, he comes over. We saw him in the preseason week one game. He looked healthy. He had the rushing touchdown, which is obviously one of the concerns for the receivers on this team. But he moved the offense down the field. I think he had like 30 to 50 passing yards somewhere in there. It was a good performance for him. And I think that's something that fantasy owners can be optimistic about when drafting a guy like Garrett Wilson is that maybe this offense won't be as bad as a lot of people are expecting them to be. So, Vinny, who do you got at number 14?
My number 14 here is maybe controversial. I'm saying AJ Brown,
Okay.
the wide receiver one of the reigning champs, Philadelphia Eagles. Now, low for AJ Brown, I understand. He's probably
Yeah.
and AJ Brown is going to have his weeks where he's getting two catches a game.
Yeah.
You know, he's
Oh,
going
for
to have
sure.
those weeks. So you draft him. I think he's a boom or bust guy. There's going to be some weeks where the Eagles are in a shootout with some of the better teams in the league,
Yep.
and you're going to need to throw the ball. And AJ Brown's going to be involved. He's the best receiver on the team. But you also have Devontae Smith there, who is one of the best wide receiver twos in the NFL.
Yep.
He's taking targets away. And I just think AJ Brown, I think there's a lot better guys, a lot of better ways you could spend a second round pick than AJ Brown. I'd be a little nervous about him. Still a really good option. You're not going to be upset with him on your team at all. Um, Especially you pair him with a good running back. Like he's a good wide receiver to have. I just don't love him. I think his ceiling's pretty low. But is going to have those breakout weeks here and there. Just expect the duds. That's all I'm
Yeah.
saying.
And Vinny, I mean, this is a guy who he only played in 13 games last year. You know, we've talked about it a lot with not just the high rushing volume, but the injuries, right? He hasn't really done that well when it comes to staying on the field for a whole season. I mentioned it. If any of you guys are on our social medias on TikTok, Instagram, we sent out the post that, you know, he's a guy that I would be fading in that second round. It's not a guy that you want to say, okay, let me go out there and reach for him. Let me go out there and target him because, like you said, Vinny, Saquon Barkley, that's the reason that they play football. They want to hand it off to him 20, 30 times a game and let him do all the work. They want to be up big, have big leads late in the game and just run the clock out. They don't want to be throwing the ball 20, 30 times a game. Jalen Hurts is perfectly fine throwing it 15 times a game. We saw it last year. Now, yes, by no means are we saying that, you know, AJ Brown can't get a couple more catches here and there. He's going to have those breakout games like you said, but to add on to what you were saying before, it's not a guy that has a super high ceiling and it doesn't feel like it's the safest pick when you're looking at these wide receivers in this range. Yeah, so let's move on to number 13 here. It's going to be a guy for me that, you know, we talk about the wide receiver two with Devonta Smith. I'm going to go to a wide receiver two in another offense, and it's going to be the guy by the name of T. Higgins. All right, the guy on the Cincinnati Bengals offense, which we know is going to throw the ball an absolute ton. Okay, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, some of the probably three of the most like exciting players in the NFL. They're just it's a fun
Right.
team to watch. I mean, we saw it last year, even when they were terrible start to the season. T. Higgins was hurt. He was banged up, but he comes back and he just has some monstrous performances and they almost slide into the playoffs there. But the problem with T. Higgins is he does get hurt a lot. It's similar to AJ Brown, maybe a little more concerning than AJ Brown, but T. Higgins, a guy who struggles to stay on the field. But when he's on the field, he's better than anybody else. He averaged 18.5 fantasy points last season, which was sixth amongst all wide receivers. Obviously, you know, not over a 17 game season because he was hurt, but still in that span of time that he played, it was very good performances. And I mean, if he plays all 17 games, this is probably a guy who's guaranteed to finish top 10 in wide receiver fantasy points just because of the volume that team passes the ball. By no means am I taking him ahead of Jamar Chase. We'll see where he falls on this list later, but definitely
A little later.
probably my highest ranked wide receiver two um, in the NFL by far.
Yeah. He is definitely the best wide receiver two in the NFL, in my opinion. But
No.
spoiler alert, I do not have a single wide receiver two. My entire list consists of the number one guy, hands down. That's just how I operate. I don't like
Oh,
wide
that's
receiver
fair.
twos in
That's
fantasy.
fair.
It's very risky, but I do not mind T. Higgins at all. But we're going to go to another guy who is, in my opinion, the riskiest draft selection you could make in the entire NFL draft or fantasy draft, in the entire fantasy draft this year. Give me Terry McLaurin, the wide receiver one of the Commanders currently, but that is up in the air as he's currently facing a contract dispute. Him and the Commanders have not settled on a um, expansion. What do you call it? Extension.
Extension.
A
Contract extension.
contract.
Yep.
A contract extension. I was about to say expansion. A contract extension. I know what I'm talking about. I promise. Um, but if Terry McLaurin is on the Commanders, which I personally think he's going to be, I
Yep.
think every time this happens, because this always happens in the preseason. There's always a few superstars who are unhappy with their situation,
Yep.
and the team is going to stay put at first, but they're going to end up caving because they know they just made it to the NFC Championship game, guys. The Commanders were in the NFC Championship game, and their offense was
Incredible.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
And that is largely in part to Terry McLaurin and his production last year
Yeah.
on the football field with the rookie quarterback, Jaden Daniels. They need to get him back on the team. So I am extremely confident that the Commanders will reach an agreement with Terry McLaurin, in which case he might be even be a top 10 wide receiver in fantasy football. He was actually at my number 10 spot, and I moved him down because of this whole nonsense that's going on. I think it will be resolved. This is, fantasy drafts are all about taking risks.
Yep.
I don't mind taking a risk on Terry McLaurin because Jaden Daniels, in my opinion, should be the same, if not better, as he was last year. And Terry McLaurin is the number one guy that's going to profit off of that success in Washington, and I think he'll be there.
You
So
know,
I don't mind taking a flyer on him. I
you
really
know,
don't.
you know what I love to say, Vinny? You're not drafting to finish in second place. You're drafting to either win the league
Oh,
or come in dead
oh man,
last. Right. You're not
exactly.
drafting for, oh, yay, maybe I'll finish middle of the table, right? No, you're not doing that. It's either I'm going to take
Yeah,
a shot on a guy because I like him and I think he has a chance to be one of the best in the league, right? In which case, okay, maybe you win your league. Or he has a terrible season, he got injured, you happen to be wrong in your last place. And you're like, "You know what? At least I trusted my gut and I went with what
at
I
least you
wanted to do."
tried. At least you
So,
tried.
Terry McLaurin's that type of guy, and I don't even have him ranked. Okay, I'll be
Right.
honest. He's a guy I'm staying away just because I think the touchdown regression is going to hurt him a lot. He had a ton of touchdowns last season. I think that number has to come down, even if the Commanders are just as good of a passing offense. And that's really the one red flag that I saw with him, and that's why he wouldn't be far out. I think I have him at 18 or 17, so he's still right there. Right, he's definitely one of the wide receivers you're going to be starting in fantasy football, but just not on my top 15.
All right. Fair enough. Yeah. Take a risk, guys. I'm telling you, it'll pay off.
So moving on to our number 12s, my guy is going to be Tyreek Hill. This is also maybe somewhat of a risky pick. We've seen a lot of what has been going on with the Dolphins organization when you're hearing Tyreek Hill talk about different players and he's talking about Devon Achane. Yeah, he's not supposed to be in on the short yardage plays and he's talking trash around, throwing trash around. And he's still recovering from some comments he made last year about, he's like, I'm out. He didn't want to be there anymore, allegedly, because, the team was so poor that he had a rough season. And a lot of people, even Tua, came out and said that they're still trying to rebuild some of that trust. And what that means for their performance on the field, we're obviously yet to find out, as Tyreek isn't probably going to play in preseason. He didn't play in week one. But, if he is on the field, if Tua is healthy the entire time, I mean, this is the guy who has wide receiver one upside. He could be a top 5 guy if Tua is healthy the entire year and their offense is firing on all cylinders. I mean, we saw it with the Chiefs, obviously a very different situation, but we also did see it with the Dolphins that first year where him and Tua were big play after big play. He was having over 100 yards and multiple touchdowns basically every game, it felt like. So if this offense can get back to that, I think this is one of those cases where you're drafting for that top 5 upside, and that's why I like him here at 12.
Yeah, I mean Tyreek Hill, man. Everyone knows Tyreek Hill. Okay, and this is another risky pick. It was a weird year for the Dolphins
Yeah.
last year. Tua was hurt. It was just an odd vibe
Yep.
in Miami. If they can return to even somewhat of their identity from the previous couple seasons, Tyreek Hill should be a top 5 wide receiver in fantasy.
100%. 100%.
Okay? They had their game plan of just, you know, throwing it downfield and being explosive, and teams caught up to them,
Yep.
but they have the potential to go back to that,
Yep.
and Tyreek Hill should be good. It's a shame what happened because I mean I know I drafted him last year in the league me and you were in,
Yep.
and he
I,
just
rem-
ended
I
up being
remember that.
horrible. Like he was awful. Like he was just bad. Like, and
He
it's
was
not
having like
his
3
fault
catches for
really.
17 yards.
Yeah,
It was like,
it
"Dude,
was
what's
like
going on?"
it's like Tyreek Hill. Like you see 3 catches, you're expecting 100 yards. Like
Yeah,
he's breaking loose for one of
yep.
three catch. He was awful. He was awful with the backups. He wasn't even that good with Tua. Okay, so I think they'll be better. I still like Tyreek Hill. That I have Tyreek Hill at 12. I think we established that, right? Tyreek Hill is my number
I don't
12.
alright, we didn't
Um,
establish it, but I can throw it up there for
okay,
the viewers at home.
yeah. The viewers at home, Tyreek Hill is my number 12. I realized I never cued you in
Yeah,
on that
it's
one.
alright, it's alright.
But Tyreek Hill is my number 12. I think he's still worth a high draft pick in fantasy. Another risky pick, but like you said, if you have Terry McLaurin and Tyreek Hill on your team, maybe rounds 2 and 3, best case scenario, you're winning your league, dude.
That's best case
You're winning
scenario.
your league, man.
And
Well, that's
worst
always
case
best case
scenario,
scenario.
neither of them play
You're
and
doing a
something
milk
crazy
mile.
happens. But,
Yeah.
eh,
You're doing a milk mile. The worst
you're
case
you're
scenario.
you're doing some sort of punishment. I saw one
Yeah.
that was going around on TikTok. I think even ESPN posted about it. Some guy enlisted into the military. And I was like, "All right, I will
That's
not
just too
be."
far, man. No, 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 no. Why are we doing that? Why are we doing that? Okay, now I'm gonna like. What, we have to go that far? Like, come on, man. Fantasy football punishments have gotten out of hand. That's all I'm saying. But we're not gonna go on a tangent. Tell me your number
No
11.
tangents. We're moving in almost to the top 10. We got one more pick before we get there. My number 11 is going to be a guy we already talked about, so I'm not going to say too much. It is AJ Brown. I have him a little higher just because I do think, he's the alpha in the offense. And when the Eagles have to pass the ball, he's going to be in the end zone. He's going to be having these big catches downfield, 30 yard, 40 catches, 40-yard catches. And I did say in the running back rankings we did, I think the Eagles are going to have to pass the ball just a little bit more. That's why I'm a little higher on him. I have him at 11. I am still fading him in that second round, but if the Eagles are behind a little more this year, I think he's going to benefit from that. So if he can stay healthy, I think he'll return somewhere around this 11 to 15 value. So I'm perfectly fine ranking him here.
Okay. AJ Brown is on both of our lists in different spots, but my number 11, I don't know if you're going to have this guy on your list. I'd be interested to see. Give me Mike Evans, man. The wide
Okay.
receiver one of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a team that you guys all know I am extremely high on in 2025. I love the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, especially for fantasy football. Listen, Baker Mayfield is a gunslinger. Okay, there is a lot of there's a lot of mouths to feed. Why I was about to say arms. There's a lot of arms to feed. I guess you're kind of
That's
feeding
not
the
right.
arms, right? No, but you're kind of feeding your arms when you're throwing you the football. You know what I mean, like metaphorically. But
In a way. In a way, yes. In a way.
there's if you really think deep about it. But Mike Evans, the point I'm trying to make, even with Chris Godwin, even with Emeka Ibuka and Jalen McMillan, Mike Evans is the guy. Okay, and I know he's getting up there in age. The guy's had 1,000 yards receiving in every single year of his career. Okay, it, most wide receivers would have regressed like 3 years ago at
Oh,
this
yeah,
point.
for sure.
Mike
100%.
Evans, Mike Evans may not be in his absolute prime still, but he is so reliable. You're gonna have your weeks where he's gonna get 2 catches. Okay,
Yep.
I think any of these guys, on my list, there is the potential of that. But when the Buccaneers are playing their brand of football, Mike Evans is gonna get his, man, and he is a wide receiver one in my eyes.
And hey,
He still is.
we
He
we
still is.
we saw it last year, right? The Buccaneers are gonna do whatever it takes to get this man to 1,000 yards. We saw it at the
Anything.
end of the season. They're gonna do it all. They're gonna pull out all the stops
Yeah.
possible, even when they don't need to play him, and they're gonna risk an injury to get him to 1,000 yards. So I think he's one of the safest guys there is to get 1,000 yards. Obviously, we've seen it in his career. Obviously, he's getting really old, right? So I don't have him on my
He's
list.
old.
He
Yeah, he's old.
he is really old. There's probably some dust on his uniform right now, um, but that's
Maybe.
why I don't have him on my list. I just think some of these other guys have more upside. I think he has a safe floor, right, where you can expect him to get to 1,000 yards again. But these other guys, I just think have a little bit of a higher ceiling. So that's why I don't have him on this list.
Yeah, that's fine. Hey, Mike Evans, I love him though.
You
Shout
got
out Mike
you
Evans.
gotta
I
love.
mean,
Shout out Mike.
like I think I don't have respect for a guy in the NFL as much as I respect Mike Evans for wide receivers. Like I just love Mike Evans, dude. I
All
love
right.
that guy.
I mean, how can you not? Honestly, if you don't
How
love
could you
Mike
not?
Evans,
Top 10.
there's something going on.
Top 10 me. Top
Top
10 me,
10.
Connor.
I'm gonna top 10 you right here, and it's gonna be a guy that he's kind of just a. It almost seems like
He's a guy,
there's
dude.
nothing exciting about him. Like he's just there,
Not a
but
single
he
thing.
gets the job done. And that's what we saw last year in his rookie season. I think in year 2 he can take a step forward. It's going to be Lad McConkey. What a lad there over in Los Angeles with the Chargers. Justin Herbert. I think their offense can kind of take a step forward. Last year, there weren't anything special. But Lad McConkey going into a sophomore year, I think he can really continue to build on that connection that he made with Justin Herbert a year ago. The Chargers did re-sign Keenan Allen. So, yes, there is some hesitation there, but this is a guy who averaged 18.7 fantasy points over the final 7 games a year ago. And I think he can carry that right into 2025.
Connor, you are on a heater today, man.
Oh,
My number 10.
means a lot.
My number 10 is Lad McConkey,
Wow. Okay.
the wide receiver of the Los Angeles Chargers. Listen, nothing special, man. I mean,
Nothing
he's just a
special.
guy. He's just a guy playing football in LA, dude.
And
He's playing
it
football.
almost reminds me of JSN. They seem like very similar players in a way sometimes.
Very similar. They no, that is very true. Very, very unexciting guys, but they get the job done. And listen, I think Lad McConkey should be better. He only had 7 touchdowns in his rookie year,
Yeah,
which is still a
doesn't
good
need him.
amount for a rookie, but he can double that if the Chargers have a good year. And then you're looking at, a top 5 wide receiver upside.
And it also goes to show that, he doesn't need touchdowns, right? To put up solid fantasy performances. And I think that's super important when you're talking about a wide receiver in this range here when we're ranking him at 10.
Yeah, and especially for PPR, he's gonna get his receptions. And fun fact, I just had my fan
Whoa. All right. Hey, Vinny, let's not get crazy. Let's not get crazy here. I don't think I would be taking him there. Wow. Okay. Oh, well,
keep that in
see
mind.
see what I'm dealing with here, listeners. He doesn't lead with that. He leads with Lad McConkey was a first round pick, and I'm over here
He
thinking,
was.
well,
He was
you,
a first
you
round
didn't
pick.
mention it was a keeper league until 10 minutes after. All right.
So,
Anyways,
okay, so he went 15th overall, and let's just say
which
that.
is probably a little more realistic. But
Eh,
anyways, we're inside our
Move
top
on.
10. Let's keep it moving here. We both had Lad McConkey at 10. Moving on to number 9, I have a guy by the name of Drake London. This is the alpha for the Falcons. We saw him have a fantastic season a year ago, third in targets overall, which is what you'd love to see from a wide receiver you can get here in the second round, even mid to late second round. Only 3 weeks out of the entire season did he put up less than 10 points. He's just a very safe option. And I think with Michael Penix Jr. going into his second year, I think that offense is only going to continue to get better. If we saw Kirk Cousins started out okay and then fizzled out, and Drake London had some rough weeks, but then boom, Michael Penix comes in and Drake London was back to that wide receiver we know and love. And that's where I'm drafting him at. I'm drafting him where he's going to be. He's going to get you 10 fantasy points at least. He's going to get 5, 6 catches for 70 yards and a touchdown, and he's going to put up 18, 20 fantasy points, and you're going to love it.
Yeah. Love Drake London. We'll get to him in a little bit. On my side, my number 9, give me a guy that goes by BTJ, Connor.
Okay.
Brian Thomas Jr., the breakout wide receiver
Yep.
down there in Jacksonville
For sure.
on the Jags. And here's the thing with Brian Thomas Jr., okay? Obviously a stud.
Yep.
He became the wide receiver one so quick in Jacksonville. But for some reason, he got better when Trevor Lawrence went down last year. With Mac Jones, Connor, as the
Patriots
quarterback.
legend.
Patriots legend. Let me read you his statistics with Mac Jones at the helm. 16.6, 32.5, 28.2, 23.9, 17.3. Mac Jones as the starting quarterback.
Yeah.
Need I say more?
No.
Brian Thomas Jr.
No.
is a stud. It doesn't matter who is throwing the football. It could be it could be Trace McSorley throwing him the football in Jacksonville, and Brian Thomas Jr. is going to be a stud. I mean, he is like a borderline, very early second round pick in my
Yeah.
eyes.
And Vinny, I'll go throw him up there. He's my number 8. So I'll go throw him up there at number 8 while we keep
Throw
talking
him up.
about him. He's a guy that, I mean, he finished as the wide receiver 4 last year,
Yeah,
right? So you mentioned
so good.
breakout. He was really a breakout. This is a guy we're getting here, like you said, um, right at that 1-2 turn if you're in a 12-man league for the most part. And I think that's an incredible value here. This is a guy who can easily finish as a top 5 wide receiver once again, just because of his downfield usage. I mean, it seems like every time you turn on red zone or they switch to the Jacksonville game, he's catching a 50-yard touchdown ball. And it's like, okay,
Right.
there he goes. It's just something you come to
Yeah.
expect now
Very-
after his first year. So
Yep.
going into a sophomore season, I expect him to only get better. So that's why I think,
Okay.
definitely a top 10 guy. And I think he has the potential to finish as a top 5 guy once again.
Yeah, and one more thing about him. When we're talking wide receivers, game script is really important.
Oh,
Game
yeah.
script is huge for Brian Thomas because I'm expecting the Jags to be down big in a lot of games
They're
this year,
probably going to be
as
losing
they
a
were
lot.
last year. They could be doing a lot of losing, okay?
Eh,
And Brian Thomas, I mean, he's the guy. I mean, they're just gonna feed him. They're just gonna feed him.
yeah.
So I love him. Draft him. High second round. If you have that like little turn there at the end of the first, start of the second,
Pick him
I
up,
love him
man.
right
Pick
there.
him up. Yep.
Pick him up.
All right. So
My number 8.
yeah, all right, there we go. I was going to make sure you remember that I put mine up. So you go ahead with your number 8 here.
Yeah, my number 8 is your number 9. So we just had a little flip flop
Oh,
here. I got Drake London.
all right.
Um,
Easy enough.
guy who just broke out last year. Even better when Michael Penix took over, and Michael Penix is going to be the guy in Atlanta. So I'm looking forward to that situation. I think the Falcons are going to be great this year. We're going to talk more
Yeah,
about them in our team previews coming up towards the end of the month, but I think the Falcons are going to be just very improved. I just feel more comfortable with the Falcons than I
100%.
have in years past. And it's kind of strange because you have the rookie quarterback. He's only played 3 games. He's only
Yeah,
started three or maybe two and a half, 3 games in the NFL. But I just think the upside of everyone on the Atlanta Falcons is just goes through the roof, and that includes Drake London. Just absolutely broke loose last year, and he is a wide receiver one, hands down in my eyes, and even has the potential to be a top three in the entirety of fantasy football. He's that good.
see,
So
so I'll go against you there. I love Drake London. I think he's a great guy, a great wide receiver here to have in fantasy, but
he's a great guy. I'm sure he is.
very polite, very kind. I've never talked to him, but I'm sure he is. But I think the big thing for him, for me at least, I know you just said you think he has the top 3 potential. I don't see that in him. When we
Okay.
talk about guys like Brian Thomas Jr. in this range, I think Brian Thomas Jr. has that. We saw him finish wide receiver 4 last year. I just don't think Drake London has that potential, not because, he doesn't have the ability. I mean, we know he does. We've seen it. But it's like, I don't know. I feel like he's more of a he's gonna get you 5 catches for 60 yards and he's gonna get in the end zone once, but he's not really gonna go out there and get you, you know, 3 catches for 150 yards in 1 quarter, like some of these other guys
Yeah.
might. Like, he doesn't have that big playability. He's kind of a guy similar to Amon-Ra St. Brown, who we're gonna talk about in a little bit, where he's gonna get you a ton of catches, right? It's gonna be for 5 yards here, 10 yards there, but nothing where it's big plays down the field, and I think that's kinda what's holding him back here. So I just wanted to say I disagree with you on that for him having a top 3 upside.
No, that's okay. That's fine. We can agree to disagree there.
Yeah.
Why don't you take
Almost
us
to our
about your
top
number
5,
seven
yeah,
here?
almost to our
Yeah,
top 5. We
we're
got
getting
2
there.
more picks here. At number 7, I'm going to have a guy who, you know, I always go back and forth on. I questioned moving him down here behind Brian Thomas Jr. It's going to be Malik Neighbors, right? This is a guy who had a league high target share a season ago at 32.2%, which is unheard of. Okay, this is a number
Yeah,
that is not going to happen again, even if he is still the only wide receiver who can catch a ball in that offense. They are not going to throw him the ball at that
only one.
percent again. Like it's not something that can be maintained. He's a freak athlete, very good. Not many better wide receivers in the league when you talk about straight up hands and route running and stuff like that. But um, I just don't think he's going to be able to return that same value that he did last year. So that's why I was going back and forth. I was like Brian Thomas Jr. I think he has a little more upside than Malik Neighbors, but because of just the what am I looking what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know the word I'm looking for, but his ability to go
Okay.
out there and still get 10 plus targets a game, I think is there. And I think that's why you have to rank him ahead of some of these guys. So Malik Neighbors at 7. I don't love it, but I think his talent is good enough to be there.
Don't feel great about it. Don't feel great about it, but you feel good about it though.
It's all right.
That's okay. Yeah, it's all right. We'll go to my number 7 now. A guy who, I mean, we're getting into the point. This is where we're talking first round, like draft these guys.
Yeah.
Okay, like
Yeah.
don't hesitate. But in that tier, I'm gonna say Puka Nacua is the worst out of that
For,
high tier for in my opinion. Listen,
yeah, for sure.
Puka Nacua this year. I think Devonte Adams is just, even though he's old. I mean, he's like Mike Evans old. Like he's old. Okay,
Dust on that jersey
Uh,
too.
he's yep. I mean, he's old, but he's just like a presence who you feel the need to get him the football a little bit.
Yep.
I I feel like, I mean, Cooper Cup, I mean, has been on and off the field the past couple years. I don't think Cooper Cup has that presence. Like Devonta Adams is one of the greatest wide receivers of this generation,
Yep. I
and
agree. I love
Matt
that too.
Stafford is. I mean, obviously, you're obviously as a Packers guy, you like that one. Um, so I think Puka Nacua's ceiling is a little bit lower than it has been before, but he's still going to be great. I mean, he's still the number one guy there. Don't get me wrong, and he's going to get a lot of receptions. I mean, they just feed this guy in a really good offense, and he's kind of the main part of that Rams scheme over there. So
And the
love Puka Nacua.
And I will
Still
add
draft.
the Stafford injury is something that you have to monitor. He has an aggravated disc in his back, which is something that could hinder him the entire year. Now, they said he got an epidural injection, which I've never heard of, but apparently it's something that should help with the pain. But I don't
We're
know if you
not
know what
doctors
that
here.
is. We are
We're
not
not
doctors
doctors
by
here.
any means. By any means. But they said that should help him. And they've been saying that he's on track to start week 1. But back injuries at that age, Vinny, when you're a quarterback with a back injury at that
Yeah.
age in the NFL,
Listen,
I would bet
Matt
that it's going to
Stafford,
linger.
dude.
I would bet that it's going to linger throughout the season.
Matt Stafford's unk, dude. He's unk now.
Yeah.
That guy's like one step in the retirement home at this point. So,
But yeah,
but who
Puka,
do they got? Who
I
they
don't know.
got behind him? Stetson Bennett.
They,
Still,
they probably have someone else too, but Stetson Bennett is definitely there. I mean, that guy out of Georgia,
Stetson Bennett. Stetson Bennett would love to throw the ball to Puka Nacua. I know that.
but how well would that turn out for fantasy owners? I don't know. So that's the only thing. I think it's just it's a rough
Yeah, right.
situation to be in for
Yeah.
Puka Nacua. You want Matthew Stafford there, obviously. Probably will be a Hall of Fame
Back
quarterback. So, but
back
anyways,
injuries and old quarterbacks are not a good
no,
combination.
no,
But
it's definitely not like Burger King uh chicken
it's
fries
not
and
Burger
buffalo
King
sauce.
chicken fries and buffalo sauce. That's just a
Nowhere
different.
close. Nowhere close. All right.
Right.
Anyways, here,
Top
let's
six.
move on to top 6. This is where we start to get into, we've already mentioned it. We're talking about true alpha wide receivers here. At number 6 for me is going to be Nico Collins, the Houston Texans wide receiver, coming off of a very down year last year. Not himself personally, he did battle some injuries, but the Texans offense overall just wasn't where it needed to be, I would say. This is a guy that averaged 22.7 fantasy points before his injury early on in the year. That was on pace to be wide receiver 2. If you look at the whole season, I think the Texans will take a slight step forward back towards what we saw in 2023 with CJ Stroud's rookie season. However, I wouldn't be surprised, if last year I was a big guy who was against the Texans. I was like, you know what? I just don't feel it. I don't think they're the
Yeah.
real deal just yet. And I proved to be true on that. There are obviously things I was wrong on too, but I was proud that I called that one accurately and correctly. So, I wouldn't be at all surprised if the Texans weren't as good as they were in 2023, but I do still expect them to take at least a step somewhat back in that right direction. And with Nico Collins, I mean, they don't have to be good for him to go out there and put up 200 yards in a game. I mean,
No.
he's just going to get all it takes is like 3 receptions and he can break loose for 3 touchdowns. So he has that big
Right.
playability, and I think that's why he's up here inside the top 6 for me.
Yep. Love Nico Collins. But he's not my number 6. My number 6, another guy who you guys might think is a little low. I'm seeing him being drafted very high in the first round in a lot of leagues, but be careful. Okay,
Be
that's all I'm
careful.
saying. Be careful with this
Watch out.
guy. And he is one of my favorite guys, too. So this is saying a lot. Give me Amon-Ra St. Brown at number 6, just outside my top 5. Listen, Amon-Ra is about as safe as it gets when drafting in fantasy football, okay?
Yep.
But we're advising you to not play it safe. He's going to get
Swing
his
for the
targets.
fences.
Swing for the fences, man. Swing for the fences. No, but he's still a great draft pick. I mean, he's going to get his targets. He is the wide receiver 1 in one of the most dynamic offenses you're ever going to see. But keep in mind now, new offensive coordinator, and there's a lot of rumblings that Jameson Williams is taking a step.
He's primed for a
Okay,
breakout, is I think what people are
prime for a
saying.
breakout. And I listen, you don't know what to believe that this early in the preseason. With it's all rumors at this point, but there is a lot of arms to feed in the Lions offense. Okay, and Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's gonna need the touchdowns to be elite in fantasy, in my
Yep.
opinion, or else he's just gonna be like a 15-point a week guy, which is still great. You need guys like that in your team, but for drafting him in the top 5 in your league or top 6, not worth it in my opinion. Still a great pick. I think he's a late first rounder in 12-man leagues. That's where I would draft him. So
All right.
that's my take on that.
So I have nothing wrong with that. I'll talk about him in a minute here when I get to him. But let's move into the top 5 here, Vinny. Big
Top 5.
big moments here now. These are the best of the best, right? These are the guys that
The guys you want.
if you see him
The
on the
guys you want.
board, you're taking him without hesitation. Obviously, we have some differences. There'll be some conversations to be had about our rankings, but these are the
Absolutely.
guys you want for the most part. The what's the saying? The creme of the crop. What's that saying? You know what I'm saying?
Cream of the crop.
Cream of the crop. Sorry, I don't know.
Cream of the crop.
I was thinking of creme brulee. I don't
Clem,
know why.
what are you, French? Now we're speaking French.
You never know. Merci beaucoup. I don't know
Wait,
what
are
that
you
means.
French?
No, I'm not
Are you
French.
French? Oh, I thought you were French.
Not French
Well,
for
we know
anyone who's wondering. But let's
we
move
know
into
you're
the
not
top.
Canadian. This guy convinced me he was Canadian the first like month I knew him. I had no idea he wasn't Canadian. I thought he was Canadian.
Not Canadian, not French. Uh, if you want any more information about my ancestry, you can probably look me up on Ancestry DNA. I heard they do pretty good with that stuff.
Who
But
I don't think you
Anyways,
could look up other people
oh,
on that.
anyways, our number 5 here. My number 5 is going to be Puka Nacua, the Los Angeles Rams wide receiver. We talked about him already with you. He's a big slot guy. He's going to get peppered with targets if Stafford is healthy the entire season. Yes, we have Devontae Adams coming over, but I think Nacua has really established himself as the guy for Matthew Stafford. Even when Cooper Cup's been there the last season and a half, you could say, Nakua's been the guy, right? We saw it last year, especially when Cooper Cup was on the field. It was still Nakua with the first read now. And he gets like 7 catches on the first drive, it feels like every single game. It's like he's going to have 7 catches for like 20 yards in the opening drive. And it's like, whoa,
Yeah,
because he just has like
yeah.
2-yard receptions every single play. But that's the
Like,
type of guy you're
whoa.
drafting here. He's exactly. He's going to have 10 catches a game, 10 plus catches a game. And if he doesn't find the end zone, it's okay because PPR formats, you're going to get the points from the reception. So he's a guy that I am safe drafting, uh, 5th wide receiver off the board. I think he does have the upside to finish as a top 3 guy. And I did have him at number 4. If it wasn't for the Stafford injury, I would have him at 4. So that's the reason I have him at 5 here.
Yeah. Watch out for that sore disc or
Yeah.
whatever,
The
whatever the heck he's
aggravated,
got going on.
wait,
The aggravated disc.
aggravated disc. Yeah. But
Okay.
anyways,
Be careful of that. Okay.
be
Um,
mindful.
be mindful. My number 5, and I hate to do this. We have a New York Giant in my top 5. I know your eyes just the look of shock on
I
your
hate it.
face was.
I, I
We need to
can't do
clip
it.
that.
I can't do it.
Okay. Malik
Ugh.
Neighbors. Okay. Painful to say this,
Ah,
but
no.
what he did last year was just mind-boggling. Okay. The targets that this guy. I mean, Daniel. Who do we have at quarterback? Daniel Jones, Tommy DeVito. Who else was playing quarterback for them? I don't even know. A
I don't
bunch
even
of
remember.
horrible quarterbacks.
No one good.
No one good. Malik Neighbors is matchup proof. He's quarterback proof. He's being on the worst team of all time proof.
But he's
He's
not going
just
to
really
see
good.
those numbers again. He's not going to get those catches, Vinny.
How,
He's just not.
how could you say that? The quarterback play is going to be better. It should be. The
Which
quarterback play is
means
going to
the
be better.
quarterback is likely going to be competent enough to spread the ball around.
To who? Who else?
Wandale Robinson,
No, no, no.
the running
Guys,
backs,
sorry.
Theo
Connor, no.
Johnson. And hear
Nope.
me out. No,
Sorry, guys.
listen to this. What defensive coordinator in their right mind is going to let the Giants go out there and do that again?
No, I 100% agree with you on that point. The defenses are going to crack down on it, but you just got to look at who's around Malik Neighbors, and there is no one else in this entire offense I would consider good for NFL standards. No one, guys. Malik Neighbors, just he is worth the mid first round draft selection. Okay, and I'm not going to do it because I don't want to watch the Giants every week.
Exactly. He
I'm
won't even do it.
no,
Don't listen to him.
no, but this is for the community. This is not for me. This is for the community. So guys, draft Malik Neighbors because his situation, the situation he's in is very advantageous for fantasy football and nothing else. Okay?
I can't talk about this
All
man
right.
any longer. Let's move on
He
to our
was like
top
your
4.
number 7. It wasn't that big of a difference.
No. Number 7, number 5, that's a big difference, okay? Top 5 is
It's
top
just this
5.
second it's this screen. It's the separate screen
Exactly.
that makes it feel like a
Exactly.
big difference. It's
Exactly.
not.
All right. And hey,
Okay.
right now you can come at me for my guy because this is the guy you had on the
I'm
second
not.
screen that I have at 4. So my number 4
I'm
is going
not.
to be Amon Ra. Amon Ra
Oh,
St. Brown.
two
This
picks
is
difference. Oh no.
this is a guy who, like you said, one of the most consistent guys in the league. And like I said, I had him at 5. I had Puka Nacua ahead of him, but the Stafford injury, the Stafford news, I think was worthy of flip flopping them. The problem you have with Amon Ra, and I'll admit it, is I think you're drafting him sort of at his ceiling. Right? I don't think he's gonna do much better than finishing as wide receiver 4 here. Like he has finished as the wide receiver 3 the last 2 seasons, right? But this is a guy who, like you said, if Jamison Williams breaks out, if Sam Laporta bounces back to his rookie season, I mean, Amon Ra probably isn't going to finish as a top 3 wide receiver this year in fantasy. Now, top 5, I definitely see. I think he's going to finish 4th or 5th. That's why I have him here at 4. Um, but I'll admit, I do agree with you on the fact that he is sort of he's safe. He's going to get you his catches. He's going to get you 15 points, but he's not going to put up these crazy games every single week on a consistent basis, like the top 3 guys are. So I have him here at 4, just outside that tier. And I think that's kind of how it's going to finish. I think a lot of people, like, I know we'll get to it in a minute here, but I think a lot of people are actually pretty in agreement on the top three guys this year. And I think it is kind of,
Yes.
they're in their own
Yeah,
tier, I would say.
they are. There is a distinct like S tier, elite tier for wide receivers, 100%. Okay. Before we get to the top three, my number four, give me Nico Collins. And listen, this one was a little bit scary for me to put him here. But then I look at the situation he's in, and it's similar to Malik Neighbors, just at a higher scale. He's the only guy. He is the only guy in Houston. Okay.
Yep.
I mean, Christian Kirk comes over. He's solid. You have Tank Dell. Just, I mean, respect Tank Dell. He had one of the worst injuries you're ever going to see.
Yeah.
So that's going to take some time. And there's just nothing. There's just nothing else going on in Houston, right? And going into the season, Nico Collins, expect CJ Stroud to come back. Maybe not as good as he was his rookie year, but he should be better because last year was just not a great year for him. And Nico Collins is going to be a monster. He's going to be a monster. I think he's going to be a PPR machine. He's going to get a lot of targets, a lot of catches, and he's the face of the Houston Texans
Yeah.
passing game,
And
and
I will say,
probably their whole offense.
he is. But I will say, they did draft two rookie wide receivers, Jalen Nolan, Jahad Higgins. I don't know if that
Jaden
first name,
Higgins,
Jaden Higgins, something like that. But those guys are going to play somewhat of a role. I mean, they have to. You can't go out
of
there and
course,
only play with one
of
wide
course.
receiver, right? But like you said, Nico Collins, he's the guy. I mentioned his big playability. I don't mind having him here at 4. I definitely like him um, to be a guy who has that top 5, top 4, top 3 even potential, right? If they have a good season. So I don't hate the pick at all here. And I know I'm a little bit lower on him than you, but I'm perfectly fine with that. So,
Okay.
Vinny.
Top
Oh,
three. I'm going to assume, and you never want to do that. You never want to
no.
assume, but I'm going to assume that we have the same three guys in some order here.
I would
So get us
probably
started.
assume the same. I'm gonna get us started here with okay, this is where it was actually tricky for me. And I'll get into why it was tricky in a second here. But at 3, I'm gonna have CD Lamb. And you probably could have guessed that. You know, you never want to assume, but you did it, and I think you would have assumed
Never
correctly
want to
here.
do it. Yep.
But CD Lamb, he is incredible, right? When Dak is on the field, these two have a connection like no one else. And yes, you bring over George Pickens, right? But how much is that really going to do? I think that makes less of an impact than Devontae Adams on Puka Nacua, than Cooper Kupp on JSN. I truly think CeeDee Lamb is still going to be the alpha in this offense. And I know you see all their cute little handshakes going on at practice and training camp and stuff. But at the end of the day, CeeDee Lamb is a much better wide receiver. George Pickens, he's second rate when I'm comparing to CeeDee Lamb. And
Yeah.
I feel confidently about that. Now, what I was saying before was I almost moved him up to 2. The reason being is the Justin Jefferson, you know, the hamstring thing he's got going on. We know hamstrings tend to linger. If you tweak it once, it tends to come back at some point. We see it all the time. And we also saw JJ McCarthy struggle a little bit in the preseason week 1 game. However, I think Justin Jefferson is basically quarterback proof, and I think he's the better wide receiver overall. So I am banking on the fact that he's going to stay healthy. And so we'll see what he ends up on my list, but that's why I have CeeDee Lamb here at 3 instead of moving him up a spot.
Yeah. I mean, you could play it CD Lamb number 3 on my list as well. Like everything. I mean, you said everything. You got it spot on. I mean, he's just a stud. I don't think Pickens affects him really at all. Him and Dak are the duo over there, the Dallas duo, as you want to call him. And CD Lamb is an elite option. He should be a top 5 pick in every fantasy draft,
Yep.
hands down, in my opinion. So, if you can get your hands on him, definitely do that.
Whoa. Okay.
All right, that was
uh,
metaphorically speaking, of course.
we love our metaphors over here on VinConn Sports Talk. But all right,
Love 'em.
since I think we're gonna have the same top 2 as well. Why don't you kick us off for number 2? Since I just talked about CeeDee Lamb for the most part. Why don't you give us your number 2, and I'll put up both of them because I think we have the same player. But why don't you
Yeah.
introduce him to our listeners?
Yeah, I'll introduce none other than he needs no
Yeah,
introduction.
it's true.
He is my favorite wide receiver in the NFL, Justin Jefferson.
Yep.
Absolutely electric. In my opinion, the most talented wideout in the NFL currently.
Yep.
I think his situation is not the best that it could possibly be. I think JJ McCarthy, there's question marks there. He sat a whole year, but he also that could be a good thing because I mean he got to learn kind of the NFL experience from afar. He's going in now. I don't think the expectations are through the roof.
No,
I think he's going
not
to
at
be
all.
fine. And he knows what he has to do. Get the ball to Justin Jefferson
Yeah,
because this
I mean,
guy's
that's
gonna
it.
make plays. He's gonna be open. I mean, Justin Jefferson is not he's not invincible to the bad week here and there.
No.
But you're gonna get a couple 30 bombs. You're gonna get a 40 bomb
Yep.
if you draft Justin Jefferson, and he's gonna win you weeks. So this is the type of guy. I don't care who the quarterback is. I don't care what the situation is. He is just that good. And Jordan Addison is going to face a suspension.
Yep.
Keep that in mind as well. So Jordan Addison was kind of a guy who eats into Justin Jefferson's potential just a little bit, and he's not going to be there for a little bit. So,
The first 3 weeks of the
um,
season. So
yeah,
that's the thing. That's the problem, though. If Justin Jefferson's hamstring is not good to go by week 1, then Addison missing time does absolutely nothing for him. So hopefully Jefferson is fully
hopefully he's
healthy when
good.
we get there. And if he is,
Yeah,
I mean, that's 3 weeks of Malik Neighbors type target share. So
exactly.
to give, I
Yeah,
had to give you some love there. I know I was a little
thank you.
harsh there earlier.
Love Jefferson, man. I mean, you need him.
How
You
could you
need him.
not? Jay Jettas, man.
How could you not?
All right,
Oh,
it's that
number
time.
one.
All right, number
Yeah,
one. I think it's kind of just everyone is in agreement on this right now. I mean, I don't really
100%.
think there's a way to switch it up. I don't see anybody putting Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb over him like we do see at the running back position. I think there's people putting Gibbs ahead of Bijan. There's people putting Saquon even ahead of Bijan or
Yeah,
Bajan. Sorry,
100%.
I know we told us how to say his name now, and I'm already
Bajan.
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 Bajan. I don't like it,
Thank
but
you.
anyways, that's his name. That's what his
I
mother
don't
called
feel
him.
good about it.
I'm not
I
going
don't
to
feel
judge
good
his
about it
mother.
at all.
But I think Jamar Chase is the clear cut number one wide receiver in fantasy football for this 2025 season. I mean, you just look at the numbers from last year. He was wide receiver one, right? He averaged 23.7 fantasy points a game. That is ridiculous. I mean, you 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 see a lot of players put up 23-point games, but you don't see it consistently on a week to week basis. You see it, okay, he has those outliers where he goes up for 30 and then he's back down to 12 or something. But it always seemed to be that he was in the high teens or the low 20s every single week. And that's what you're looking
Yep.
for. I mean, even with T. Higgins there, the Bengals are throwing the ball so much. It doesn't matter. Joe Burrow is going to find him. We even saw it in the preseason. I don't know why these guys were playing, but Jamar Chase,
No,
T.
no.
Higgins, Joe Burrow, they were all playing. And guess what? Jamar Chase had 4 targets, 4 catches, like 40 yards and a touchdown. T. Higgins had 1 target. So he's the alpha. He is the guy.
100%.
And you're going to have weeks where T. Higgins maybe it has a hot hand that day, right? But Jamar Chase is still going to have 7 catches for 120 yards and a touchdown. It's just what he does. It's what the Bengals offense needs to do because they're giving up 40 points a game. So Jamar Chase, clear wide receiver one in fantasy in my eyes, Vinny. I know you have him here as well. Is there anything you want to add about him?
Yeah. I mean, no, you said it all. I mean, Jamar Chase is the guy. I mean, shout out LSU producing the best wide receivers in the NFL year after year. But I mean, this guy's awesome.
Yeah.
He's the consensus. Well, I mean, I wouldn't say consensus first overall pick. He's
Yeah.
definitely the
Wide
consensus wide
receivers.
receiver
Yeah.
one, and I think he goes first in a lot of PPR leagues.
Yeah.
I mean, his connection with Joe Burrow it's the best wide receiver quarterback connection in the NFL.
For sure.
In one of the best offenses in the NFL, one of the most explosive offenses in the NFL. You're going to see games where they're down because their defense is so bad. Probably most games actually. And I mean, there's no one that's going to profit off of that more than Jamar Chase. So, I mean, you don't need us to tell you that he is probably the best player in fantasy this year going into the season. Because you know that. Because
If I
I mean,
have the
you
number
guys
one
know the
overall
record.
pick, I will be taking him. Vinny, I don't know where you stand
100%.
on it, but
I would
I
too.
would be taking him. I know there's
Never.
people
I've
who
never
love the
had a
running
first
back
overall pick.
approach, but
Never had a first overall pick in my life, and I don't this year, as of right now. But if I did, Jamar Chase is my guy, 100%. So that's our wide receiver rankings. We got through that pretty fast. So good for us there. Not a lot of rambling.
do we
But
want
let us know what you guys think.
should we do a quick run through one more time here? I'll just put them up
Yeah,
on the screen. So 15 through 6 there. Obviously you see it there. Um some similarities. Both had JSN at 15, had Tyreek Hill at 12, Lad McConkey at 10, Brian Thomas, Drake London around the same area. And then moving to the top 5 is where we got interesting here with Malik Neighbors for you, Puka Nakua for me at 5. For 4, I had Amon-Ra, you had Nico Collins, and then the top 3 being CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase in that order. I mean, it's kind of just how it's going to be this year. I think it's very exciting, these wide receivers. I mean, there's a lot of guys outside that top 15 that we didn't even talk about that could be league winners still. They could still be top 10 guys.
yep,
They have that upside. I mean, so it's a very deep position. You see it every year. That's why there are people who love to go running back early because you can find guys in the third, the fourth, the fifth round even who can be wide receiver ones by the end of the season. So
yeah. they're gonna win you or lose you your league,
Yep.
excuse me, because um, you're gonna draft wide receivers who you're never gonna expect to be as good as they're gonna be. And you're gonna draft some wide receivers high that are just not gonna pan out. And it's just such a deep position. There's so many question marks. You rely on the quarterbacks and how healthy and
Yep.
good they're playing too. So there's so much to talk about with wide receivers. But let us know what you think of these rankings. And we have one more position to cover. We are talking tight ends next, which is by far the hardest position to navigate in the National Football League for fantasy football. So we're going to try our best to point you in the right
Yep.
direction there. But that's going to wrap things up here for episode 44. Just a reminder, follow us on all of our socials. We have a ton of content coming out on there: Instagram, TikTok, Twitter /X, whatever you call it, and YouTube. So make sure to give us a follow on all of those. And we'll be back next time for tight ends. Connor, do you have any final thoughts here?
I just can't wait for this football season, man. It's only a
Yeah,
couple weeks away now, and every single day that goes by, the anticipation builds more and more. So I'm fired up, man. Hopefully, after we get done with these tight ends, we can start pumping out those on the
team
team
previews.
previews for you guys. But those are always fun
Yep.
to do. So that's all I got, Vinny.
Very exciting. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys for listening. And we're, like I said, stay tuned for that tight end episode. And we'll see you next time.